Hey guys, welcome to my drive home. I just want to talk to you about getting started in real estate. I just had a really impactful interview with Wendy and Brandon. We'll get that episode posted here in a little bit. But one thing that they both hammered away at was just get started. You're never going to get going if you don't get started. And kind of encourage you guys now, I want to tell you about our first house that we ever bought. Our first house we bought wasn't because we wanted to be real estate investors. It was because we didn't want to rent. We didn't want to lose our rent money every month and never get that back. So what we did is we found the cheapest house we could afford, absolute cheapest house we could afford that was reasonably close to where I worked. That happened to be a HUD house. It was $64,000. This is probably in 2010 or 2011. So we found a $64,000 house in Northwest Indiana, about 45 minutes from the south border of Chicago. And what we did was we got on an FHA loan, and our FHA inspector must have been crazy, lazy, or didn't care, right? Because we moved into a house that we were able to buy a house that had a hole in the ceiling on the first floor. You could see up to the floor joist in the second floor. The bathrooms were pretty bad. The walls, you could move them. They were soft enough that you actually push your hand on them and move the walls back and forth a little bit. The upstairs bathroom, the floor was really soft under the toilet. Just by walking into the bathroom, the floor would move kind of up and down a little bit. Smelled mildewy, really nasty. And the kicker for FHA was the garage was just absolutely covered in peeling paint. And the house, the actual house just off the dining room, the ceiling was missing. It was all broken out. The plaster was just missing. So we didn't know that the rules or regulations around FHA would have prevented us from buying a house in that condition. We had no idea at the time. We were just trusting our realtor, trusting our loan officer. But by some miracle, maybe just the grace of God, right, we got into that house. So we didn't have any dreams of becoming real estate investors. We just didn't want to live in a crummy house. So we started fixing it up slowly, paycheck by paycheck. We completed the drywall repairs in that house. We extended the wood floor from the living room back into the kitchen and then out into the dining room. We found some really inexpensive used hardwood flooring that we cleaned up a little bit, put down, sanded, and stained all together. We fixed those bathrooms. We put out the nasty subfloor, put in new subfloor, repaired floor joist as needed. Again, just because we wanted to live in a nice house, and we had no dreams of really ever selling the house. It had plenty of room. It was a 2-story. Well, it was a Cape Cod. So it had room for kids upstairs, room for us downstairs. We did a beautiful built-in bookshelf media entertainment center with channel behind the drywall for hidden wires. You know, all the things that we just wanted. And my job changed. I had a job opportunity in Colorado, so we decided to leave Northwest Indiana. And when we went to put that house on the market, we got conflicting reports on what it was actually worth. So a couple people were telling us it was worth, $135,000, upwards of $140,000. And we had a very smart realtor come in and say, you know what, this is not a 2-story. The people who are telling you that this house is worth what they're saying it's worth are not considering the fact that your comparables are all going to come from the Cape Cods in the area. So they showed us the Cape Cod comparables, and of course that price was much lower, but still way better than we had ever expected. The other thing that this realtor told us is that the market is so incredibly hot right now. There's no inventory. If you hired me to sell your house, you wouldn't get any benefit out of it, because the absolute highest price you can sell for, being a Cape Cod and being in the condition this is in, is such and such a price. She said, because that's what the comparables are going to come back at. She said, if you hire me to sell your house for you, she said, I'm just going to take a commission off the top of that. If you list for sale by owner, you're going to be able to take 100% of the proceeds. So she advised us, she helped us out, she told us what to sell for, told us how to list on Zillow for sell by owner. And we took her advice, and it sold for exactly what she said it would. And it was awesome. And the comparables came in exactly where she said they would. And so we sold that house and realized, number one, that you can gain a lot of equity. You can increase the value of your home by doing modest upgrades by yourself. Now, it still hadn't really clicked with us that we could be real estate investors. What we learned, though, was that it was much better to buy a home and fix it up because you'll have equity. The value of that piece of property will be much higher than it was when you moved in. And those principal payments you made towards your mortgage, we got back at the sale of the house. So how do you get started? A couple ways. Number one, please do not think that the simple act of owning a home makes you a real estate investor. The simple act of owning a home means you have high debt and possibly a liability. How do we decide whether our home is an asset or a liability? The simplest way to think about this is the direction of the flow of money. If money is going out of your pocket, okay, it's a liability. If money's coming into your pocket, it's an asset. If you have a lot of money flowing into your pocket, you're going to need bigger pockets. Wink, wink. That's a great podcast. Go listen to it, Bigger Pockets. So what you want to do when you look to buy your first home is, how can I make this house, this piece of property, put money in my pocket? Number one is to buy a house that you just rent out, right? You can rent it out for more than the price of the mortgage, your principal and interest payments on your mortgage, and then your tenant will do a beautiful thing for you. They'll pay the bank their interest, they'll pay down the principal on your home, and they'll put a couple bucks in your pocket every month while the home increases in value, increases equity. So that then is an asset because your tenants are paying down your principal and putting money in your pocket. The other thing that you can do is you can buy a house with an ADU. Look it up, educate yourself. Buy a house with an ADU, or buy a duplex or a triplex. If you can get into a fourplex, that is a great way to do it, especially if you're going to occupy one of the units. If you're occupying one of the units, you can apply for an FHA loan, so minimal down. You're going to get a rate based on the fact that it's owner occupied, which is going to be much better than a fully tenanted rate or a home that you're not living in. And then what you have is you have 2 or 3 different people paying against the principal of your home, where you are not the one paying down your principal. You are not the one paying the interest to the bank on that loan. You get to live for free while these wonderful people, who we call tenants, pay down your principal, pay your interest on the loan, and put a couple bucks a month in your pocket. Obviously, the more people or the more families that you're able to rent to underneath one roof, the less responsibility or obligation you'll have on the property towards that note. Now, what I mean by that is, if you have a single family home that's got 2 bedrooms, you're a single man or woman living in a college town, and you're going to rent 1 bedroom out of that home to another college student, okay? Maybe the max you might be able to get on that is $500 a month. $500 a month, all inclusive with internet, utilities. It's just a small house in a college town. Your mortgage on that small house might be $575, $600, okay? So they're not quite paying for all of that, but they're putting a good significant chunk towards it. So that would still be considered, in my book, that would still be considered an asset. But if you're able to have a little bit bigger of a home, maybe now you can house a family, or maybe you can give somebody their own personal space inside the home or inside the ADU, located right next to the home. If you're able to give somebody their own personal space, now you can charge whatever the market will allow. If the market will allow you to charge $750 for that, great. Some markets will allow you to charge $1,200 for that or $2,400 for that, great. All of that goes against your principal loan and the obligations that you have against that note. If you can house hack in that manner and bring multiple people, multiple families into one property to each contribute towards the payments, you've got a cash flowing asset. And it would actually be much better for you to delay the gratification of owning your own dream house, living in a house. It would be much better for you to delay that, continue renting somewhere, and buy something that multiple people rented from you, either on a price per room, or somebody lived in the house, somebody lived in the ADU, somebody lived on side A of the duplex, and somebody lived on side B. Or if you're able to get into a 3-unit or a 4-unit and owner occupy it, now you can live free of charge while your wonderful tenants pay down that asset. Now you've got a cash flowing property that's helping you to build wealth. So you can then go from there and buy a second or a third property. You can leverage as your equity grows. You can leverage that equity as a down payment on another property. And there's multiple ways to grow after that. But a common mistake that people make is they say, I want to invest in real estate. That means I need to own a home. And so what they do is they go to a local home builder who's building homes in their area, and they say, these houses on this block say they start from the low 300s or from the 325s. Well, our loan officer told us we're qualified for 325. So what they do is they go in and buy right at the top of their budget. What you're getting when you buy a brand new home, and you need to do your research on this, but many times what you're getting is a much higher tax bill, because if a builder has broken ground on a brand new subdevelopment and they're putting in all these homes, the city or the municipality will also have significant investment to run water, to run sewer, to run gas, to bring the infrastructure there so that they, with the builder, can invest in this area and bring new housing to market. What that does temporarily is it drives up the property taxes. So you'll find that you look at a neighborhood where the houses were built in the 70s, the 80s, or the 90s, will have a dramatically different tax rate than a brand new housing development. You want to be very careful of that. The next thing you want to be careful of in a brand new housing development is the homeowners association. Not only can it be costly, but many of those HOAs will prevent you from renting a portion or subletting a portion of your house to somebody else for a rental reason. You want to just make sure that you review that. Number one, review how much is the HOA actually going to be, and then will the HOA allow me to use my house as an asset? Will it allow me to rent it out? Some of them will, some of them will not. Buyer beware, do your homework. The other area where it's really easy to get into trouble when you buy a brand new build, and I've heard all of the arguments. I'm going to get a warranty on this house. I'm not going to have maintenance issues. It's going to be hassle-free. If we want to focus on building wealth, we can't be focused on fixing our own home. Therefore, we're going to buy brand new. Blah, blah, blah. I've heard many of the arguments. Another thing you want to be careful of is when you go into the builder studio and you say, you said you had them from the low 300s. We want one. I say, great, you can have them from the low 300s. But if you don't want linoleum in your kitchen, you'd like some tile or some hardwood, we could give you a beautiful product and it costs this much money. And it's only going to change your mortgage by a couple bucks a month to get that nicer upgraded finish that you want. So you start down that road in that upgrade game, and by the time you've got hardwood floors and granite countertops and soft close hinges on your cabinetry, and you've gone from 30-inch uppers to 42-inch uppers, all of the things that we want to do when we buy a brand new home, your mortgage is now almost unaffordable, and you're what we call house poor. So you have no extra money at the end of the month to put towards your investments or to put towards things that are going to point money back to you and back to your pocket. So a huge danger with buying a brand new home is you get in there and you buy a house, you get sucked in on the loss leaders, the cheapest carpet that the builder can offer, and the linoleum in the kitchen and the laundry room and the bathrooms, and no upgrades in the shower, and a large spacious master bathroom with a walk-in closet, and little to no shelving in that master closet, and very basic finishes in that master bathroom. And you want to improve those, and the builder has an answer for every single one of the things that you want to upgrade. But that answer has a massive margin on it that puts a ton of money in the builder's pocket at the expense of your pocket. So just be careful. If you want to go buy a brand new home, go for it. Just know what you're getting yourself into. There are many very savvy investors who buy brand new builds as rentals. When the HOA will allow you to do that, and if you're in a position to invest in renting out brand new builds, it can be a great strategy if that's your business plan. So not against it, just know what you're getting into. And if you're the typical first-time home buyer on a very tight budget and you don't have a bunch of expendable resources, I would doubt that that would be the strategy that would be the most attractive to you were you to consider multiple of them. So what I recommend is go to a B neighborhood and buy the ugliest stinkiest house on the street. Now, you obviously want to make sure you don't have foundation issues or that your roof isn't leaking, but you want to buy the house that's just ugly and smelly. Do not skimp on what you would pay an inspector to walk the house with you and tell you all of the things that are wrong with it. Not only can a house inspection help you to renegotiate a deal if you need to come down a little bit, should you discover a large repair that's needed, or should you discover something that the seller can complete prior to you moving in, but it's going to give you a really good understanding of all of the things that are right with the house and all of the things that are wrong with the house. I definitely recommend for your first several properties that you buy, if you're new to construction, if you're new to DIY, even if you've been in this game for a while, walk that inspection with your inspector. Not only are they going to do a more thorough job knowing that you're right there on their heels, but many of these inspectors are very passionate about what they do, and they're very happy to have a conversation with you about the condition of the attic, about the amount of insulation that was laid or blown into the attic. They're very happy to have a conversation with you on your foundation and what a normal foundation would look like and what a bad crack is, or what a bowed basement wall is, or where your water intrusion is coming from in the basement, and what the markers are to show that you do have water intrusion or that it appears that you don't have any water intrusion. They're very happy to educate you just as a matter of conversation while they're walking through your house. So I highly recommend, I don't care if it costs you $650, $750, $1,000 for your home inspection, get everything inspected and walk it with the inspector, learning about your new potential asset while you're walking it with them. So definitely do that. And then once you get into it, once you actually close on your first deal, again, don't think of it as a home, don't think of it as you're buying a house, you're buying a deal, okay? Because this is an asset that you hope will cash flow once you get it fixed the way you wanted to get it fixed. Then start taking action. If you've run the numbers and the property is the right property for you, the asset is right, the numbers work, you know you can afford the upgrades or the cosmetic fixes that are needed, start taking action. Take action every single day. Move yourself closer and closer towards the finished goal of having a completed asset that helps you out, that puts money back in your pocket every single month. If you buy a house that needs fixed up and you never fix it up, it's a liability. If you buy a live and flip property and you never get it to the point that you can house hack or bring somebody into another room, bring somebody into that ADU, bring somebody into that converted garage, it's still a liability. It's not an asset. If you allow repairs to languish and you don't fix the roof that needed repaired and you don't change the water heater and it begins to leak, you now have an active liability that's currently devaluing your property by allowing damage to occur. So if you're going to get into a property like that, make sure that you have the resources and the gumption to get out there and get it fixed. So advice for this episode is just get started. I'm excited for you to hear from Wendy and Brandon in the next episode. They're going to talk a lot about that, just taking actionable steps towards your goal. But do it. Just get out there and get started. Don't buy yourself a giant brick that you can't afford. Don't make yourself house poor. Don't buy a liability. Truly look for an asset. Truly ask yourself what works for you and for your family and for your business plan and for your investment strategy. And get out there and have fun. So thanks for listening. I hope this inspires you to get out there and get an asset so you can start cash flowing so that you can do more and empower good. I'll talk to you next time.